Welcome back to the Shared Shelf. I'm Shauna.
I'm Shawn. We're going to open up with what we're reading, how it's going, what's hurting or hindering you. Shauna, do you want to talk about what's going on with your reading?
I have no updates.
Shauna just got back from a trip.
I'm still reading Jade City. I'm loving it. I just got to a pretty crazy part, but I have no real reading updates.
So I'll talk a little bit about mine. I'm currently reading, started this over the weekend, The Shadow of What Was Lost by James Islington. He wrote The Will of the Many, and this was his first trilogy, his first book that he ever wrote and published back when he was still, I believe, a school teacher. It's interesting. I always find it interesting when I find an author that I like to go back to their earlier work, and you can kind of see tidbits and teasers of like what will become their style and things like that as they...
Are you drawing any parallels to the writing of The Will of the Many?
Definitely. I think that I'm glad that he wrote that trilogy first, or this trilogy first, because I do find the plot and the magic system to be a little bit confusing, and I think he toned it down a little bit, stepped it back half a step, and dialed in his character work a little bit.
Is The Will of the Many a confirmed trilogy? I know the second one's about to come out.
I don't know if it's a trilogy or more.
Okay.
I don't think that's been confirmed yet.
Cool. And you're liking it? What page are you on?
270.
You read 270 pages while I read like 20 of Jade City?
Yeah, but you went on a vacation and I sat at home alone, not on vacation. So
yeah, but you probably would have read that much regardless.
I don't know about that. But that's where I'm reading right now. And then we're going to talk at the end of the episode about what I'm going to start reading.
Cool.
So, Shauna, no one reads.
What?
No one reads.
No one reads.
New York Times just published a study from the University of Florida and the University College London that from 2003 to 2023, so 20 years, daily leisure reading declined at a steady rate of about 3% per year.
Oh my God.
And it's down 40% total.
What?
From a high of 28% to currently 16%.
Wait, that's actually insane.
So yes, it's steadily declined over the last 20 years, but what's crazy is that, 30% of the population was reading for fun, for leisure. And now it's 15%, so half of that.
Is that taking into account that those people who were once reading for leisure are reading now for like academic purposes?
No, it's like normal people.
Oh.
Not academics.
So they just stopped reading.
And the concern is that they really broadly defined reading. So it included like magazines and news articles. It didn't just include like reading a book.
I don't read magazines or news articles anymore.
So here's a quote from it. There is evidence that reading for pleasure has been declining since the 1940s, the researchers said. But they called the size of the latest decrease, quote, surprising, given that the study defined reading broadly, encompassing books, magazines, and newspapers in print, electronic, or audio form.
Huh. Okay.
So people consuming news articles, magazine articles that are, like New York Times, you can listen to the news articles.
Mm-hmm.
That all is included in this.
Wow.
So that's a primer for what we're going to talk about today. And today we're going to be talking about if you want to read more or if you want to start reading at all, this episode is for you. Shauna's looking very confused because I just told her to stop shoving her finger into her eye consistently as it's tearing and getting more red by the second.
I got an eyelash in my eye and I didn't want to risk the production of the show.
You can't keep rubbing your eye like that.
You looked at me like you were scolding Kenai.
Yeah, well, here we are.
Okay, fine.
So if you are joining us and you're confused about what's going on, this isn't a podcast about rubbing your eye. This is a podcast about how to read. Not if you need to learn to read, but if you want to get into reading more, if your goal is to read 1 book this year, 2 books this year, 10 books this year, if you want to learn to make it a hobby, if you want to leisure read, anything like that under that umbrella, this podcast is for you.
Whoa. Love that recap. Thank you.
So we're going to start with some reading tips. And what are your kind of reading tips for how to read more or get into reading?
Getting into reading is I I would say in general, reach for any book that sounds somewhat interesting. I think the longer you read and the more you define your reading taste, you have more of like a sensitivity to knowing what kind of books you'll like, and you'll tend to only pick up books that you'll like. But I would say that the early days of reading are really for experimenting, and you're not going to like every book you pick up. But what it's going to do is it's going to develop your reading palette, and it will make you a stronger reader in terms of picking up books that you think you're going to like.
I would push you on that
With what?
because
When I start my personal reading journey is when I started reading, I was reading everything. I was
okay,
reading
but here's what
sci-fi.
I'm saying is it's not good to only read what you know or think you know you're going to like, because how many times have I forced you to read a book that you had no interest in?
I'm talking about, yes, you are correct, but I'm talking about in the general.
Yeah, but when you talked about like when you learn what you like and you don't need to venture out anymore, like I would push people on that. Make sure you venture out of your comfort zone once in a while. You might be pleasantly surprised. But I agree, when you're starting to read or building a reading hobby, just pick books that interest you. It doesn't matter how dumb they seem. Like if you find a book type or an author or a genre or a theme and it interests you, read it. Don't care what other people think about it. My next tip is try multiple formats. So try reading a print book. Try reading a mass market paperback. I famously love mass market paperbacks. So you might not like the form factor of a regular sized book. Try a mass market paperback. Try
In
reading it
audio.
on a Kindle. Try reading it audio, listening to it, and see what works for you. Try doing multiple things at once. Read one book with each eye. No, I'm kidding. Read a
Oh, you're
physical
telling me
book.
you don't read one book with each
No,
eye?
I'm not the SpongeBob meme where his eyes are split. Read a book, a physical book, and listen to the audiobook. I do that sometimes when it's a really
Tandem.
long book, when I'm trying to really trudge through it quickly and absorb it all. I'll listen to the audiobook as I'm reading and follow along with it. It's almost like someone's reading to me, but it's, I'm a little bit more engaged than just listening to it. Do you have another tip?
I want to go back to the first thing I said when I said you will hone in on your reading preferences. I do think that it is nice every now and then to challenge your reading preferences, but there are people, and I'm one included, who I know the types of books I'm going to like, and there's nothing wrong with reaching for books you know that you're going to like. There are so many books out there, and every single book you pick up can't be one that challenges you. Sometimes you pick up a book because you know you're going to like it. And that is enough because reading is a hobby and it doesn't always need to be a challenge. That's my
That's
tip.
fair.
Case closed.
My next two tips are don't be afraid to DNF books, to drop them and not finish them.
That's a really good tip because I actually, when I first started reading, I was so against DNFing. It went against like everything that I thought reading was. I was like, no, I started it. I have to finish it.
Yeah. Especially when you're early on, don't force yourself to read a book just because you're like, I need to finish this book, or I told someone I was reading this book, or if I don't finish this book, I'm not a reader. Part of being a reader is knowing like, I don't want to waste my time on the next 300 pages of this when there's definitely something out there I will like.
I have another tip that just made me think about mine. So to piggyback off that, I would suggest not getting so caught up in the social aspect of reading and the book tracking apps and
Reading
reading
goals.
goals, like all of those kinds of things. I would say take it all with a grain of salt because it's really not great for anyone if you compare your reading to other people's reading. It's not a competition. You don't always need to be sharing with people exactly what it is you're reading. Like sometimes I'll read 3 to 5 books at a time, but I'm not updating my Goodreads or Fable every single time I start a book or the progress at which I'm making on that book. I keep some of it to myself.
I never use the progress feature. I do update it whenever I'm reading, even if I'm reading multiple books, just because I want to make sure I track what I've read. That way I don't, like, 10 years from now look back and be like, did I read that?
Oh, that's interesting. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, that's for me, like, that's what those apps are for,
Oh,
is to, because now I'm 10 years into reading as a hobby. I'm starting to look back and be like, oh, I did read that. Oh, and I rated that a 2.
I forget sometimes my ratings, but I don't forget a single book that I've read.
I read very broad and kind of obscure stuff sometimes. So,
Yeah.
like a Michael Crichton book about an air disaster thriller. I forgot I read that.
Is that a real book?
Yes.
What's his
It's very
What's
good.
his title?
Airframe, Michael Crichton. Do not recommend it for first time readers. So, my last tip is start small. Start with maybe a short story collection. Short story collections are great. Stephen King especially has so many of these where you will have a novel sized book and it's broken down into 4, 5, 6 short stories. So, start small there.
Oh, I just thought of another tip.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't know you were waiting for me. I would say it's okay to read a book and not fully grasp it the first time around. Maybe don't be afraid to reread a book after you have some more books under your belt and you can revisit a story that you liked, but maybe you didn't fully grasp it.
I think that's a very good idea to reread books, because there are books that I read when I first started reading that I absolutely loved or absolutely hated, that I'm thinking to myself now, if I went back, 10 years later and reread those books, like, I might feel differently
There are
about them.
books that I definitely rated low that I think if I read it today with my reading preferences honed the way I have them, I think I would have really enjoyed them more.
Yeah.
And vice versa. There are probably books that I was really generous with, but maybe I have more of a critical lens today.
Any other tips before we move into book recommendations?
No, I think that's it for me. Just have fun with it. It's meant to be fun.
Yeah, that's the important point. You don't read so that people see the books on your shelf and think you're smart. You don't read so that
Although
you
our,
can
our
talk
shelves
about
do
it.
make us look kind of smart.
I don't know about that.
It's an independent hobby that has a social aspect to it, but I would not let the social aspect outweigh the
I will say, I will give one more tip here. Ask people what they're reading. I always, if I see someone with a book,
That's a good
if I
idea.
see someone I know with a book, or I know they're a reader, I always ask, what are you reading? Because you never know what they might say, like, oh, I just read this thing and I absolutely loved it, that you might be interested in.
Yep. Great idea.
With that, I'll tell you what we recommend.
Yeah.
So I'm going to vamp for time and talk about my first recommendation while Shauna's pulling up her notes. So my first recommendation, I'm going to break mine down differently than Shauna, and I'm going to have a couple more than Shauna has maybe. So I'm going to start with fantasy. So if you're new to reading or just new to fantasy, then my recommendation would be if you want an urban fantasy, if you want something that's not a traditional, like Lord of the Rings, dragons and stuff fantasy, if you want something that's a page turner, I'm going to recommend you what I recommended to Shauna, Jade City by Fonda Lee. So if you like Succession, The Godfather, The Sopranos, you'll like Jade City. Jade City follows the two rival clans who control the island nation of Kikon, where magic-like abilities are powered by rare and precious resource of jade. With tensions mounting between the two families, they vie for power as they threaten to plunge their delicate peace into all-out war.
Whoa.
What's your recommendation?
Okay. The first one that I have is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I think that's how you say it. Have you read that book?
No, it was when I was early on in my reading journey, I considered reading it, and then I very quickly found that I don't like those types of books.
Okay, so I was going to say those types of books are what got me into reading in the sense where it could be a book that I constantly was ready for the next thing and turning the pages. I think a quick page turner, a thrilling story, something that will keep you guessing and will ultimately shock you is a great book to read for when you're trying to get your footing.
I agree.
That's my first one.
My next one is going to be if you like classic or epic fantasy. So if you liked the Game of Thrones show, I do not recommend you read the books. It's like a 7-book series. It's unfinished. They're all very long and very dense. This is like your first fantasy book or first book. Don't recommend it. What I do recommend is The Wolf by Leo Carew. So this is part of a trilogy. And it's kind of like if you took Game of Thrones and boiled it down to just kind of the bare minimum components, but still in a compelling world and well-written page turner. So violence and death have come to the land under the northern sky. Fragile is the peace that has existed between the two very different races, and that peace is shattered when the Southern armies flood the lands to the north. These two races revive their age-old hatred and fear of each other. Within the maelstrom of war, two leaders will rise to lead their people to victory.
Whoa. You read this very recently, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And that was one that I read very quickly.
I remember, yeah.
I don't think it's an amazing series and groundbreaking, but I think if you want to get into that type of like Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings style reading, it's very approachable.
Nice.
And fun fact, this guy wrote that series while he was stationed in Antarctica for a few years.
Whoa. That's awesome. Did you see parallels between like the atmosphere of the book to Antarctica?
It's definitely like a northern kind of inspired, colder, darker world. Wolves. So I could see that.
Yeah. Isn't it called Wolf?
The Wolf. It's like a person.
Okay, whatever. I tried. Okay, the second book that I would recommend would be Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I chose this book because even no matter what format you consume it in, whether it's audio or physical, it's in a very non-traditional format. It's written as if it's a script of a documentary. So it's just spelled out by character. It's really fun to read. I read it physically, and I listened to part of it on audio. They have a full cast, and it's fun. And the reason I think that it's important to experiment with books that don't follow a traditional format, it shows you that they can be different and fun and still engaging, even if it's not spelled out in the usual way of paragraph, chapter, whatever.
So you stole one of my recommendations.
That was yours?
So I've never read that book.
How can you recommend it if you've never read it?
I've heard that the audiobook is great because it's a full cast. So it was going to be in my if you want to listen to a book section.
Oh, do you have a backup or did I just steal yours?
No, there's another one too. So don't worry about it. But this is also recently made into a TV series.
It is. It's a miniseries and it's fantastic.
That way you can read the book, watch the series, and then say the book was better.
Okay. Can I interrupt for a second?
Hot take.
No. I don't know if I think that it's one of the adaptations where it actually lives up to the book. I don't think the book is better. What I was going to say is you stepped on my toes for one of my other recommendations that if you're okay with it, I'll just go right into it. So one of the books I would recommend would be The Shining by Stephen King. And the main reason why I chose it is because if you're new to reading, it would be really cool to read a book that has an adaptation that is pretty good. And then you can kind of compare and contrast the book to the movie. Trust me, I know that the movie is not exactly like the book, and I have my own issues with it. But I think The Shining is a phenomenal book. It's one of my favorites. I love pretty much everything by Stephen King, but The Shining is so incredible. And I just think reading a book and then watching the movie or watching the TV show adaptation is such a fun thing to do.
I agree. I do agree, but I also think that right now, where we could probably do a whole side podcast on this, I think right now we're seeing TV adaptations get cranked out left and right. And I think that 9 times out of 10, they're not as good, or at best, they're like, that was pretty good. I'm glad I saw it.
So I will say The Shining doesn't follow the book exactly. And if you're okay with that, then I would say it's a great movie.
I got beef with The Shining because it's a very good movie. It's not The Shining book by Stephen King. It's more inspired by.
It's inspired by.
I will hold my thoughts on this. I don't think that The Shining is a good intro to reading.
Ooh.
But you read it pretty early on.
I did read it really early on.
I also want us to do a dedicated King cast one day.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So I will hold all my Stephen King
Hold
thoughts
all
and
your thoughts. The
recommendations for
last thing I
that.
have to say about that is that the Daisy Jones and the Six adaptation follows the book to a T. So if you're looking for a book you can read that you can immediately consume some other media form, I would
They also
recommend
have
that
a
one.
soundtrack, right?
Oh my goodness, how could I forget? They have a whole vinyl. I have the vinyl. I own it. They did a full soundtrack because Daisy Jones and the Six, if you're unfamiliar, it's a fictional band, but they got the band together to create a literal album to coincide with the book and the show. It's a phenomenon.
They
I
didn't
love
get
it
the
so
band
much.
together. They made a band.
They got the band back together.
All right, my next recommendation is a little bit lighter and more wholesome in fantasy before we move on from fantasy. So if you like Monsters Inc., I'm going to recommend to
University
you...
or
No, Monsters Inc., the OG. I'm going to recommend to you The House on the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune.
Oh, great.
A crotchety mid-level bureaucrat is sent on a highly classified assignment to a remote island orphanage. There he must investigate 6 uniquely dangerous magical children and their caretaker and determine if they are truly destined to bring about the end of days.
Wow.
So it's a fantastical world, but it's very wholesome, lighthearted, and it's the kind of book where like everyone's happy. Do you want me to go with another one because I have more than you, or do you?
Go with another one. That'd
So
be
my
great.
next is going to be a sci-fi choice. So my top choice, I need to put this out there. My top choice for sci-fi like intro recommendation would be Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, who also did The Martian.
I haven't read that yet.
There's a movie coming out for it. The audiobook's also great, but everyone on Book Talk and BookTube who's getting into reading are talking about this right now. So this is another one that everyone's talking about, but I really do love this book. If you like Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, Dark Matter by Blake Crouch.
Yeah, I did. I really loved that. I read that very early on.
Yeah.
By your recommendation.
And that I read that very early on in my journey as well, and I want to go back and reread it. But that's my next recommendation.
Okay. Let me get mine back up. The next one that I have is kind of I know that not every person who is looking into reading will want to read a romance. I think it's kind of a very specific type of reader that might even be drawn to it. But I am recommending Funny Story by Emily Henry. The reason why I'm recommending it is because it's very low stakes, it's light, it's easy to read, and then it's also a book that kind of is sweeping the book community. And I'm recommending Funny Story, but really any Emily Henry book is all over Booksta, Book Talk, BookTube, wherever you consume book content, people are talking about Emily Henry. So I think it's a really good book if you want to join in on those conversations. It's a book that I think there are a lot of people out there that will have similar opinions to you, and you can kind of, gab about it with the girls or people that don't have similar opinions. And then you can, converse about what maybe you liked that they didn't. I think it's a good conversation starter. I've had lots of conversations about all of Emily Henry's books, and they're always really fun.
You can also read it if you're a boy and gab about it with the girls.
You can gab about it with the girls, gab about it with the boys, gab about it with whoever.
All right. My next recommendation is a nonfiction recommendation.
Oh, wow.
So if you're looking to get into some nonfiction, I have plenty of recommendations, but one starter book that I thought was really interesting that I think will hold your attention well. So if you liked the Fire Festival documentaries, or you find yourself fascinated at like why human interactions turn out the way they do, I'm going to recommend Talking to Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell. I read the physical book and listened to the audiobook, kind of switch back and forth. Both are good, so another good audiobook pick.
Nice.
I believe Malcolm Gladwell reads all, if not most, of his own books that he writes. It's always great when an author reads their own book.
Yes.
Malcolm Gladwell argues that our fundamental strategies for understanding people we don't know are deeply flawed, causing us to consistently misread their intentions and character. Using a series of fascinating and often tragic case studies, he explores why we are so quick to trust, why we fail to detect lies, and how our interactions with strangers often lead to catastrophic misunderstandings.
Whoa.
Malcolm Gladwell's books are really good because he'll have like an idea for a chapter of like people talk past each other. And then
Mhm.
he'll use a story, a case study, story
Yeah.
over the course of that chapter to tell the story and then dissect how this supports what he's
Oh,
saying.
wow. Okay. I'm not a big nonfiction reader, but it sounds pretty interesting. The last book that I have to recommend would be The Death of Vivek Oji by Akwege Emezi. And I chose this book for a couple different reasons. First of all, it's one of my favorite books ever. It is so tragic, but beautiful, and it's heartbreaking. And it's everything that I personally love in a book: literary fiction, character development. It's it's perfect in my opinion. But also I'm recommending it because it's under 300 pages, and I think that when you are starting out reading, like, bigger books are intimidating. I mean, we talked about it in the last episode that anything over
I like big
400
books and I cannot
pages.
lie.
Yeah, I like big books and I cannot lie. Now I do. Back when I first started though, very scared.
There are at least 5 to 10 books that I thought about including on this and thought, like there's no reason you should recommend Babel or 112263
I
to a
was
new
gonna
reader.
112263 was one I was trying to think of how to recommend it, and then I was like, I wouldn't.
That's so we could do like a
Let me say I wouldn't recommend it in terms of to
new readers, yeah.
beginning your reading journey. I absolutely recommend it to anyone who
That I thought
wants to
about
read
it and
it.
I was
Yeah.
like, that would be like a step 2 when you're
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm into it.
I
I'm like,
also thought of a second step. Yeah.
so
Anyways, yeah, Death of Vivek Oji is incredible. It's short, so you can kind of like crush it. I actually read it in one sitting, which was insane. You had been gone for the day. I can't remember where you were, but I was all alone at home and I picked it up, and it was also sitting on my shelf for like over a year and I had just never gotten around to reading it. So this is also a reminder that like one of your favorite books might actually, you might already own it and you just don't know it. And I picked it up and I didn't put it down for the whole day. I sobbed. I immediately sent it to my friend Megan. I was like, you need to read this book. And it just goes to show that just because a book is short, under 300 pages, doesn't mean that it's not impactful. So I think if you're looking, especially if you're thinking numerically of like how you can kind of crush a reading goal, short books do have substance. So don't overlook them.
great point. Great point. My next recommendation is for the adventure seeker. So if you liked the movie or the book Into the Wild, if you're an outdoorsy person, if you are hiking on the weekends or going camping or things like that, I'm going to recommend The River by Peter Heller.
Oh, he's recommended this to me nonstop.
So two best friends, Win and Jack, are on a leisurely canoe trip through the remote Canadian wilderness when they hear a mysterious argument and spot a wildfire raging in the distance. Forced to flee the approaching blaze, their dream excursion becomes a desperate race for survival.
Whoa.
So I cut a lot out of that. That's even on the back of the book that I thought was like, not spoilery, but I just wanted to tease it. So this book was very successful, and he actually wrote, I think, 2 other follow-ups to it. So one that's a direct follow-up like years later, and then one that I think is like ancillarily related to this.
The painter?
Nope, not at all. That was written before this.
Oh, okay.
So, and then I have 2 more quick ones. So one on the short side. So if you're looking for something, short stories, that's where you want to start. You want to start small, maybe one short story a week or something like that. If you like I Think You Should Leave or Black Mirror, I recommend Raised in Captivity by Chuck Klosterman. So this is a collection of very short speculative fiction stories that read like bizarre dispatches from a world almost identical to our own, but with one key element twisted into absurdity. Each thought-provoking and darkly funny scenario, from a man who discovers a puma in the bathroom
Whoa.
to a lawyer defending a man who has been cryogenically frozen, examines the strange logic and moral paradoxes of modern life.
That sounds crazy. I'm going to piggyback off of yours and recommend the short story collection, The Secret Lives of Church Ladies by Disha Philiwa. I'm not sure I'm
Are
pronouncing that
these
correct.
are these all short stories about different church ladies?
Yes.
Interesting, and it's interesting.
Oh, it's amazing. It's so I do not read short story collections. I just generally don't have an interest in them. But for whatever reason, I picked up this one and every single story gripped me. My favorite was Peach Cobbler. So if you've read them, let me know what your favorite one was. But yeah, can't recommend this short story collection enough.
Yeah, I want to get reading a little bit more short stories because I've done like Raised in Captivity, like I just recommended, a few Stephen King ones that, and some like Ken Liu, Ted Chiang, and I find them. I have to be in the right mood for it, but I like them. So my
Do you
last,
do you have one more?
yeah, my last recommendation. My last recommendation is the I want to listen category. Maybe you're not ready to commit to reading. Maybe you just want to do some listening. Maybe you're doing a lot of driving. You want to fill that time.
Oh yeah, commuting.
So I was going to mention Daisy Jones and the Six. You covered that pretty well. The other thing, it's all over Book Talk now, but Dungeon Crawler Carl.
Oh yeah.
It's an amazing series. So if you like Dungeons and Dragons or Squid Games, you'll like this book. Now, when the aliens find Earth, they demolish it to create a cosmic, hyper-violent reality game show, converting the entire planet into a multi-level dungeon for their entertainment. Carl, a man caught in the apocalypse wearing only boxer shorts and his ex-girlfriend's cat, must survive. Now, you don't need to have played Dungeons and Dragons or role-play games to enjoy this book, but if you like those things, you will love this series.
Cool.
I will say it is very crude and it's violent, but it's not like realistic violence. It's like
Okay.
squishing an alien.
Okay.
But
And the voice actor is like absolutely insane in a good way.
The voice actor does a voice for every individual character. So hundreds of characters have their own individual voices and sound effects. I will say that now going back and re-listening to them, the first book, the voice is a little bit.
Well, he's getting his footing.
Yeah, the voice is a little bit like overdone. And then if you listen to like the most recent book, like the 7th book, it's much more fluid. The company that the voice actor, or excuse me, narrator?
I think it's a voice actor.
The company the voice actor works for, or excuse me, owns, did a what he calls an audio immersion tunnel where they re-recorded that first book with more sound effects and a more full cast. So there's a handful of people doing all the voices.
Oh, wow.
So if you're going to listen now, I might recommend doing that audio immersion tunnel.
Cool.
But it's a surprisingly deep book. I wish I had the book in front of me. It's over across the room. But the blurb from another author on the cover is like, this book has no business being this deep and emotional.
One more recommendation for if you're driving and you want to listen to something, the shared shelf. Why not? Pass your time with us.
You got 90 minutes to kill. Listen to the first 3 episodes. All right. Any more recommendations before we close it out? Get these people back on the road?
There are so many recommendations, but I will save them for another time. I think just have fun with it.
Just start.
Yeah, just start reading. Even if you read 1 page a day, honestly, like I'm doing right now. I'm basically reading 1 page a day. As long as you're having fun.
What's embarrassing? One of like the very first books that I read
was what?
The OJ I Did It book. It was very bad.
Wait, that would be a good topic for another episode because I know I've read some embarrassing books in the beginning.
Don't get me started on the Ministry of Time.
Oh.
That's a story for another day.
Yep. That's all we have time for.
If you have book recommendations, drop them in the comments. Send us an email. If you need book recommendations, send us an email. Reach out to Shauna on social media because I don't exist on social media. But
yeah, you can find me at Folklore and Fiction on Instagram.
That sounded like a question.
Well, it's folklore period and period fiction.
Okay, 2 periods, not 3. We'll make sure that's linked on
I said 2.
The website. No, I'm clarifying.
Oh, okay, yeah.
What's next? Is there a new release that you're looking for, or what are your TBR vibes?
Well,
I'm gonna.
Are you gonna say what we just picked up today?
I went today and picked up Catabasis by R.F. Kuang.
Tell us who you agree with the pronunciation.
Yeah. But that's what I'm going to drop everything to read like after we press stop on this recording.
Next thing that we're looking forward to is The Strength of a Few.
I actually have some October books I'm looking forward to personally.
Do tell.
There's a fantasy series by a guy named Ken Liu called The Grace of Kings. The Grace of Kings is the first book. It's the Dandelion Dynasty. It's like an Asian-inspired epic fantasy that's like multi-generational over thousands of years.
Sounds right up your alley.
I haven't read it. I've heard great things about it. It's actually on the shelf somewhere.
Really?
But he wrote his first sci-fi book.
Oh.
And that's coming out next month. Or I guess it's still August. That's coming out in October. So I'm going to be reading Catabasis. Then that Ken Liu book, All That We See or Seem. And then we're both looking forward to Strength of the Few.
Do we have anything in September?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I can't think offhand. I think I have some reading plan here. No, so September's reserved for Catabasis. And then I'm going to do some like... I do want to do a reread of Will of the Many too before Strength of the Few comes along. I'm just going to
have you Spark Notes it for me.
Oh, and then there's a book coming out in October called King's Sorrow by Joe Hill, Stephen King's son.
Whoa. Oh.
That's supposed to be good.
Yes, we talked about this.
Yeah. I'll bring a synopsis of that when it gets closer.
Is that a pen name?
It was like a name that he started with to like not get a boost from his daddy.
Okay, yeah.
And then like
we love
everyone
a good Nepo
very
baby.
Quickly. Well, he's the opposite of that.
That's what I mean.
Well, that's not what you said. You literally said the opposite of that.
He's a good Nepo baby.
Oh, okay. It didn't come.
It didn't come across. My bad.
But that's where I'm at right now.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward. The only thing on my radar is Catabasis and Strength of the Few. I just need to get through Jade City. I need to finish at least one book in August. Not because I have to.
Do you think you will finish Jade City?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, what are you thinking? Like,
what am I thinking so far?
By the end of the month.
Oh, well, my goal is to have it done by Thursday. Today's Tuesday. Oh, there's no way I'm getting it done by Thursday. I'm going to have it done by this weekend. Mark my words.
Remember it here when it doesn't happen.
No, for real. Mark my words. I will. I'll finish it.
That's what I'm saying. Mark it. Timestamp.
All right. Timestamp.
All right. Anything else?
No. Thank you. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Oh, if you are listening to this in current times, there's some crazy stuff going on with Audible and their, I don't want to say royalty, their like payment structure for authors. There are people who have done way better reporting and analyzing this on YouTube. So go look up Audible and what's going on with them. We've de-Amazoned. Unfortunately, Dungeon Crawler Carl is like strictly on Amazon.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
A lot of good books are, but the audio immersion tunnel's not. So if you want to do it, get it there. But if you want to know what's going on with like that kind of book news, go look it up on the internet.
I actually don't even know, so I'm going to go look it up.
Yeah, it's like a lot. Daniel Green's done like 3 or 4 30-minute videos.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, with like interviews with authors. He just did one.
Well, does he have his book on Audible?
Yeah, he just did one with the response that Audible sent him, and from the thumbnail it looks like it's malicious. And like
you have not read it, watched it yet?
No.
Let's do it. Let's watch it.
Yeah, we'll get to it. You got to watch the background first, but.
Anyways, thanks for tuning in, guys.
Happy reading.
Love ya. Peace. Bye.